The Thompson mansion blazed like a glass fortress against the Seattle skyline. From outside, it looked like celebration, chandeliers on, marble floors gleaming, windows alive with light. But if anyone pressed close to those walls of steel and glass, they would hear what wealth could not silence: 6 children crying together, their voices braided into a chorus of heartbreak. Marcus Thompson sat slumped in his third-floor office, his head in his hands. 34 years old, founder of a tech empire worth billions, a man who could move markets with a sentence, yet powerless against the sound that filled his house. It had been 8 months since Sarah's death. 8 months since Emma's birth. 8 months of nights like this, each one stretching long enough to feel eternal. The twins, Oliver and Sophia, were 4. Daniel was 3. Isabella was 2. Lucas, barely walking, had just turned 1. And Emma, tiny Emma, was 8 months old and had never known silence. She cried as if she could feel her mother's absence in her bones. When she wailed, the others followed, until the house seemed to shudder under the weight of their grief. The door opened. Mrs. Henderson, his housekeeper of 15 years, stood in the frame. Her bun was loose, her uniform wrinkled, exhaustion painted across her face. "Mr. Thompson, the night nurse has quit. She says she can't do it anymore." Marcus lifted his head, green eyes bloodshot. "That's the 4th this month." "Yes, sir." She lowered her voice, though the crying leaked through the walls. "The children refuse to settle for anyone. The doctors say they're healthy, but this is not normal." "They're broken," Marcus whispered. "Just like the rest of us." Mrs. Henderson hesitated. She had been with this family through everything: courtship, fertility struggles, the joy of each child's birth. But she had never seen Marcus like this. "Sir, perhaps we should try something different." The agency called. "They have someone unusual for this house, but maybe what we need." Marcus straightened slightly. "Unusual?" "Her name is Maya Rodriguez. 26. A single mother herself. No elite training, no degrees. She works 3 jobs to care for her 5-year-old daughter. She knows children because she lives the struggle every day." He wanted to dismiss it. All the experts with their degrees had failed, why would this woman succeed? But something in Mrs. Henderson's eyes, weary but certain, made him pause. "What makes you think she's different?" "Because she needs this as much as your children do. Sometimes the people who care most are the ones who have the most to lose." Before he could answer, Emma's cry split the night sharper than before. Marcus was out of his chair and climbing the stairs 2 at a time, Mrs. Henderson close behind. The children's wing had once been a dream Sarah had designed: hand-painted murals, custom furniture, shelves filled with books. Now it felt like a prison for grief. Marcus found Emma red-faced in her crib. The twins were awake, frightened. Daniel clutched a stuffed bear, whispering "Mama." Isabella stood in her crib, arms reaching toward her baby sister. Lucas wandered the floor in circles, sobbing without words. "I've got her," Marcus said, scooping Emma up. He hummed Sarah's lullaby, rocking gently. For a moment Emma stilled, then screamed harder, as though realizing this was not the mother she longed for. Around him the others broke down too, each cry igniting another until it was unbearable. "Sir," Mrs. Henderson said softly, "shall I call the agency in the morning?" Marcus pressed his cheek to Emma's hair. He knew the truth. He couldn't survive many more nights like this. "Yes. Ask for her. Ask for Maya Rodriguez." 3 days later, Maya stood before the mansion with Sophia, her daughter, clutching her hand. Everything she owned fit in the canvas bag at her side. She had grown up in East Los Angeles, child of immigrants who worked until their bodies ached. Life had taught her suspicion of good fortune. A live-in job at a house that could buy her entire neighborhood twice over seemed too good to trust. "Mommy, is this where you'll work?" Sophia whispered in Spanish. "Sí, mi amor," Maya replied, switching to English the way she had taught herself to do. "Yes, sweetheart. Mama will help children who are very sad." The door opened. Mrs. Henderson greeted them with her practiced formality, but her eyes softened when they landed on Sophia. "Mr. Thompson has arranged quarters for you both. But before we meet the children, I must prepare you. They are not ordinary cases. They've lost their mother, and no one has been able to calm them." "I understand," Maya said. It wasn't entirely true, but she carried herself with quiet certainty. She had raised Sophia alone, survived nights of tears and fear, and knew grief's weight in a child's chest. That would have to be enough. Inside, the foyer rose like a cathedral, marble, crystal vases, light pouring through glass. Maya barely looked. She followed the sound. Upstairs, Mrs. Henderson paused outside a door. "They're quiet," she murmured in surprise. When the door opened, Maya saw 6 children scattered among toys and books. They were beautiful, green eyes, delicate features, but weary. She felt their distrust like a wall. Oliver, the older twin, walked toward her. His voice was small but firm. "Are you going to leave too?" Maya knelt until her knees pressed the carpet. "I will try very hard to stay," she said softly. "And while I'm here, I will do everything I can to make you feel safe." Sophia touched her hair curiously. "It's soft." "So is yours," Maya smiled. Emma fussed in her bouncer. Without waiting, Maya lifted her, settling the baby against her shoulder. To everyone's astonishment, Emma's cries eased. Maya hummed an old Spanish lullaby, her voice low and warm. "How did you do that?" Daniel whispered. "Sometimes babies cry because everyone around them is scared," Maya said gently. "When you hold them close, they feel safe." The children exchanged glances, silent but knowing. "We miss Mama," Sophia said suddenly. "Daddy says she's in heaven, but we don't know where that is." "And Daddy's sad all the time," Oliver added. Maya felt her throat tighten. She pulled Lucas onto her other arm, holding 2 children at once with practiced ease. "It's okay to miss her," she said. "Love doesn't go away. It stays in you. Always." She looked around the room, at 6 pairs of watchful eyes. "Maybe tonight, we all sleep together in one room. Like a big sleepover. No one alone." The twins glanced at each other. For the first time in months, a flicker of hope crossed their faces. "Would you stay too?" Oliver asked. "Yes," Maya said simply. "I would be honored to." And for the first time, 6 children smiled together. Marcus was in his office when the laughter started. Not loud, thin, tentative, like a bird testing its wings. It floated up the stairwell and made him stand before he knew why. He wasn't used to that sound living in his house anymore. He opened the door and listened, trying to decide if hope had learned a new trick or if exhaustion was finally making music out of nothing. Mrs. Henderson appeared, a question in the lift of her eyebrows. "Shall we?" They went together. In the children's room, the usual storm had been arranged into weather you could live under. Beds were dragged toward the center, a peninsula of blankets and pillows. Nightlights sat at the edges like small lighthouses. The twins were sliding stuffed animals into positions that clearly mattered. Daniel leaned over a book, not reading so much as touching each picture like a blessing. Isabella lined up toy horses in colors that had strong opinions. Lucas patted the mattress with both hands as if testing the firmness of a cloud. In the rocking chair, Maya held Emma against her shoulder, humming something gentle and old. For a moment, Marcus only watched. The room had a temperature he recognized from faraway days, the kind that lets a child's jaw loosen, the kind that tells a father he is not already losing. Maya looked up. "Mr. Thompson." Not a curtsy, not a show, just his name, spoken the way you open a door. "I heard," he gestured at the air, embarrassed to say laughter in case it left again. "We're trying an experiment," she said. "All of us together tonight. If anyone wakes, no one wakes alone." Mrs. Henderson took a breath to object and then let it out as a compromise. "For one night," she said, as if to herself. Marcus stepped closer to the island of beds. Does this, he faltered, feeling suddenly like a visitor. Does this help? Maya's eyes were steady. It helps us remember we're not solving a problem. We're comforting people. Oliver stood, a 4-year-old diplomat. That's Daddy's spot, he announced, pointing to the empty space the twins had left at the edge of the pillow field. It felt like permission and a test at once. Marcus sat. The mattress sighed. A tiny foot, Lucas's, settled against his calf as if to make sure he didn't float away. Emma fussed and then tucked her face deeper into the fabric of Maya's shoulder, the way babies vote. What now? He asked, voice low. Now, Maya said, we sing while we remember something good. She began the Spanish lullaby again, the melody so simple even a tired heart could find the next note. Sophia joined, soft at first, then braver. Daniel hummed the way children do who want to help even when they don't know how. Isabella stroked a horse's plastic mane and swayed. Lucas made a sound that wasn't quite singing and wasn't quite not. Oliver watched Maya as if she were a map that might be true. Tell me a mama story, Maya said, not to Marcus alone but to the room. One that makes you smile. Pancakes, Sophia said immediately. Heart ones. On days she said were special even when they didn't look special. She did voices for books, Oliver added. Bad ones but funny. She smelled like flowers, Daniel said, eyes big with memory. And she sang loud in the car. Isabella, who had refused to say the word mama for weeks because it made her cry, placed a horse at Emma's feet and whispered, she combed my hair and didn't pull. The room changed shape around the stories. The edges softened. Breath slowed. Maya rocked and stitched their words together with the lullaby until it sounded like the house itself was humming. Marcus didn't trust his voice. He put his hand over Emma's back instead, felt the drumbeat of her small spine, felt it start to match the rhythm of the song. A tear slipped hot and traitorous. He pretended he didn't notice it and so did everyone else. Will you stay when the lights go off? Oliver asked, testing again. I will, Maya said. I'll sit right there. She pointed to the chair near the door like a guard post. Can Daddy stay too? Sophia asked, without looking away from Maya. If he wants, Maya answered, as if fathers were allowed to want. I do, Marcus said, surprised at how easy it was to choose. They dimmed the lamps. The night lights puffed their soft halos. The ceiling mural, painted with constellations Sarah had chosen, glowed like a map someone loved. Maya's voice lowered to the thread of a song. The children arranged themselves by instinct rather than rules, twins in the middle, toddlers on the flanks, Emma the warm center of gravity. Marcus lay on his side, facing the little archipelago of faces, and waited for the first siren of panic that usually came when the room went dark. It didn't come. Instead, there were the ordinary noises of a family landing, blankets whispering, a thumb finding a mouth, a horse falling like a tiny log and being rescued without protest. Daniel sighed in the shape of a question mark and then straightened into sleep. Isabella pushed her horse closer to Sophia's knee and stopped moving. Lucas, who had learned to fight rest as if it were an enemy, surrendered like a soldier relieved at last. Emma held out the longest, her body remembering a night that had never been kind. Maya adjusted her a fraction, hummed a bar that dipped and rose, and the baby shivered once, then went heavy, the sudden delicious weight that means trust. Marcus felt something give way inside him, not a collapse, not a failure, just a weight shifting from a single beam to a whole structure. He exhaled without realizing he had been holding his breath for months. Thank you, he whispered to the dark. Maya's silhouette turned in the chair. Thank you for letting them show you what helps, she said. They stayed a long time like that, children sleeping like a constellation reassembled, a father learning the shape of quiet again, a woman keeping vigil not as a servant but as a witness. Seattle glittered through the windows with its own indifferent night. Inside, the house made a smaller, truer kind of light, night lights on cheeks, a sheen of breath, the soft reflection of hope on a man's eyes. At the door, Mrs. Henderson watched with the complicated relief of someone who has seen systems fail and people succeed. She pressed her lips together, then let them relax. For one night, she'd said. Watching the room breathe, she amended the rule in her heart. For as many nights as it takes. Morning came quietly, as though the house itself were cautious not to disturb the miracle it had witnessed. For the first time in 8 months, the Thompson children had slept. Not perfectly, there were whimpers, a dream or two, but they had slept together, and when the sun filtered through the curtains, no one woke screaming. Marcus stood at the doorway, staring at the tangle of blankets, pillows, and small bodies. Emma was curled against Maya's chest, her tiny hand gripping the fabric of Maya's shirt. Oliver had one arm draped protectively over Sophia, while Daniel clutched a toy car in his sleep. Isabella and Lucas had somehow migrated toward Maya during the night, their bodies pressed close as if her presence was the gravity that held them all. He felt something strange, a cautious relief that he almost didn't recognize as joy. For months he had dreaded mornings, but today his children looked like a family again. Breakfast was different too. Usually a battlefield of crying, spilled juice, and untouched food, this morning the dining room echoed with chatter. Sophia insisted on telling everyone her dream about flying horses. Daniel, usually sullen, laughed so hard milk nearly came from his nose. Even Emma gurgled happily in her high chair, reaching for bits of banana that Maya mashed with calm precision. Marcus sat at the head of the table, stunned. He had expected one good night to collapse into another nightmare. Instead, something had shifted. Maya didn't treat breakfast like a chore to survive. She turned it into a rhythm, children helping set napkins, passing fruit bowls, taking pride in the smallest tasks. When you help, food tastes better, she told them, and though Marcus doubted the science, the results were undeniable. Mrs. Henderson watched from the sideboard, hands clasped. Her expression was unreadable, relief blended with a kind of guarded concern. Over the next days, routines began to form, small but powerful. Maya insisted on rituals of memory rather than distraction. She sat with the children and helped them create a mama book, pages filled with drawings, stories, and photos of Sarah. Each child contributed. Oliver drew pancakes in the shape of hearts, Sophia sketched flowers, Daniel scribbled his version of Sarah singing loudly in the car. Even Isabella glued in strands of ribbon that reminded her of her mother's hair. At first Marcus feared these exercises would reopen wounds. But he saw the opposite. Instead of avoiding their grief, the children learned to honor it, to hold it without drowning. They planted a small garden in the frosty backyard. Maya told them each flower could be a message to their mother, something living that carried love upward. Oliver chose sunflowers because they were bright like Mama's smile. Sophia picked roses, because she smelled like them. Daniel insisted on daisies, simple and stubborn. Even Lucas dropped handfuls of soil with pride. Emma, in Maya's arms, reached out and smeared dirt across her face, making everyone laugh. Sundays became sacred in a new way. Sarah's tradition of pancakes returned, this time chaotic, messy, imperfect. Flour exploded across the kitchen, eggs cracked on the counter instead of in the bowl, but the children cheered as though disaster was the point. Maya encouraged it, insisting that memories taste better when they're messy. Marcus flipped one pancake into the air and nearly hit the ceiling fan. The children howled, and for the first time since Sarah's death, he laughed until his stomach hurt. Mrs. Henderson, though relieved, could not ignore her worry. She had seen wealthy households entangle themselves with caregivers before. She knew the dangers of blurred lines. Yet even she couldn't deny that Maya had done what no professional had managed. The children not only slept, they laughed, played, and sought her comfort with a trust that ran deep. She noticed, too, the way Marcus watched Maya when he thought no one was looking. Not like a man surveying an employee. More like a man remembering he was still alive. It unsettled her. The real test came on a stormy Thursday evening. The rain hammered the glass walls, and Emma began to fuss. By midnight, her cry sharpened into something more urgent. Maya checked her temperature and felt her heart skip, fever. 103 degrees. She moved quickly, calming the older children while preparing a lukewarm bath. Oliver fetched towels without complaint. Sophia held Lucas on her lap, whispering comfort. Daniel clutched Isabella's hand as if anchoring them both. The family became a team, guided by Maya's steady voice. Emma whimpered as Maya lowered her into the water, her tiny body trembling. The fever eased slightly, but as soon as she was lifted out, the crying returned in painful waves. "Maybe she needs all of us," Oliver suggested suddenly, his young voice steady with conviction. The others nodded. Without waiting for instructions, they formed a circle around Maya's lap, pressing close, offering small hands and warm bodies. Maya rocked Emma in the center, surrounded by siblings who hummed the lullaby they had learned from her. Slowly, impossibly, Emma's cries softened. Her breathing steadied. Her fever didn't vanish, but the panic in her small body eased into exhausted calm. That was the scene Marcus walked into when he returned home, his children clustered around Maya like petals around a flame, Emma finally asleep. He froze in the doorway, overwhelmed by what he saw. "You did this?" he asked, voice thick. "They did," Maya said softly, pride shining in her eyes. Oliver knew what she needed. Marcus's throat tightened. He had spent months drowning in guilt, convinced his family was broken beyond repair. But in that circle, in the quiet strength of his children, he saw something he hadn't allowed himself to believe in. Healing. For the first time in months, the mansion felt like a home again. The storm finally moved off the sound, leaving the mansion rinsed in quiet. By morning, Emma's fever had slipped down to a number that didn't make the walls lean. Everyone woke slow and tender, like people stepping off a boat. Maya carried laundry down the back stairs, little clothes that held the shape of small shoulders, blankets that still remembered crying and the way it stopped. She sorted with the restful rhythm she trusted: fold, stack, breathe. That was where Mrs. Henderson found her. "May I have a word?" the older woman asked, voice composed, eyes not quite. "Of course." Maya set a tiny sock on the basket's rim. "You've done wonders here," Mrs. Henderson began, sincere enough that it hurt. "The children sleep. They laugh. Mr. Thompson breathes again." She paused, then folded a washcloth precisely in half. "But I must protect this family. We have rules. Boundaries are how a house like this remains a home." Maya felt the floor steady under her feet and then tilt. "You think I'm overstepping." "I think you are human," Mrs. Henderson corrected gently. "And he is, too. I have served long enough to know what happens when grief reaches for the nearest hand. It feels like rescue. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is an avalanche." She lowered her voice. "If you go, and you will go one day, no position is forever, these children will lose you, too. I do not know if they can afford another loss." The words were not unkind. They were careful. They were also true in the way a closed door is true. "I understand," Maya said. She smoothed the little shirt on her lap until the cotton went flat. After Mrs. Henderson left, she sat a moment longer, then stood with the decision to be smaller than how she felt. That afternoon the house felt different, though nothing obvious had changed. Maya kept her answer shorter. She angled her body away when Marcus entered a room, as if proximity were something you could ration. She narrated tasks but not feelings. She smiled without showing her teeth. The children felt it first. Children always do. "Are you sad?" Sophia asked, just before nap time. "I'm okay," Maya said. "That's not the same thing," Oliver observed. Marcus noticed in the evening, the way their post-bedtime talk shrank to logistics, the way her eyes reached him and then retreated like a tide that had reconsidered the shore. He didn't push. Pushing, he had learned, was what you did when you feared there wouldn't be another chance. He preferred to build chances. 2 days later, the weather turned domestic. A gray Sunday that asked for sugar. Maya tied aprons too big for little waists and declared the kitchen open for pancakes shaped like stars even though it wasn't morning. Flour drifted like low snow. Daniel beat eggs with the intensity of a drummer saving a song. Isabella pressed cookie cutters into dough and announced each shape as if summoning it. Lucas stole measuring spoons and clanged them together with the dignity of a blacksmith. Marcus wandered in, sleeves pushed to his forearms, tie abandoned somewhere that didn't matter. He took a spatula and failed in 3 different ways. The children roared with the kind of laughter that forgives everything. Maya laughed too before she remembered she was supposed to be smaller. She swallowed the extra joy like a pill without water. Again, Sophia demanded, pointing at the batter. Make it flip like a dolphin. This dolphin has no coordination, Marcus warned, and tried anyway. The pancake turned into a comet and landed on the edge of a pan. Cheers erupted for the attempt, not the result. He looked over at Maya. She looked down. The room, which had been full of the permission to be alive, tilted again. When the batter bowls were empty and the counters looked like a blizzard had passed through, Mrs. Henderson ushered the children toward baths. Their feet pattered away, leaving warmth like footprints. Maya began to wipe the counter with the kind of concentration people use when they're trying not to think. Marcus picked up a towel and stood beside her, drying mixing bowls that spun circles of reflected light. What happened? He asked finally, voice low, the way you talk near sleeping children or skittish birds. Nothing, Maya said, too quickly, then tried again. I'm keeping it professional. He put the bowl down very gently. Professional saved my children. But you didn't just fix schedules. You held us. You let them be broken without calling it broken. You let me be a father who didn't have answers yet. That isn't a service. That's love. The word landed. She stared at the counter as if it had spoken. Mrs. Henderson is right, she whispered. People like me don't stay in houses like this. Not forever. If I let them lean on me and I have to go, I will be one more door that shuts. He took a breath that sounded like a decision. Then let's not build this on a door. Let's build it on the floor. She almost laughed. What does that even mean? It means I'm not asking you to pretend this is a job with a neat ending, he said. I'm asking whether we're brave enough to name what has already happened and make choices worthy of it. She shook her head, tears bright but not falling. Marcus, I have a child. I have rent when this house isn't my home. I have to be careful with the future. Yours and mine. Me too, he said softly. I have 6 futures upstairs. He stepped back, as if making space might be the truest form of persuasion. I won't push. But I won't lie, either. The kitchen went quiet in a way that felt like a held breath. Outside, the afternoon thinned into the kind of blue that makes lights seem warmer. Inside, a bowl clinked as it met the rack. The sound decided something. I don't know how to do this, Maya said. I don't know the rules. Maybe we write them, he said. She looked up then, finally meeting his eyes. What she saw there wasn't a rescue. It was a man willing to be changed. Footsteps thundered back down the hall. Oliver skidded into the doorway, hair wet, socks misaligned. Lucas is crying because he thinks the dolphin pancake went to heaven, he reported, grave and ridiculous. Maya wiped her hands and moved toward the hall. Marcus followed. In the bathroom, Lucas sat on a bath mat, bottom lip trembling. Maya knelt and put a hand on his chest, right over the small thud of his heart. The dolphin pancake is in the trash, she said solemnly. It lived a short, meaningful life. We honor its service. Lucas blinked, then Hiccup laughed. Grief, even in miniature, knows when it's been seen. That night, after stories and lights and the soft argument with sleep that most of the children lost quickly, Maya returned to the kitchen to finish what the day had left. Marcus waited, drying the last plate, not an ambush, just witness. I spoke with Mrs. Henderson, she said. I will be careful. Good, he replied. Me too. Then, after a heartbeat, careful can still be honest. He didn't step closer. She didn't step back. They stood in the middle distance people use when learning a new dance, counting quietly, promising with their feet not to crush the other. Tomorrow, Maya said, I want to start something new. A memory garden. Winter is the wrong season, but I think the act matters more than the calendar. Tell me what to buy, he said. Let them choose, she answered. Sunflowers. Roses. Daisies. We'll plant hope like it's hardy. He smiled, but not just at the thought of flowers. All right. As she turned to go, he said her name. It landed in the air between them like a hand offered without closing the distance. She paused, and for a moment the room held both truths, the lines you draw to keep little hearts safe, and the lines you cross when safety is not the same as love. Upstairs, 6 breaths rose and fell. In the staff corridor, Mrs. Henderson paused, listening to the quiet, and recognized it, the sound a house makes when rules are being rewritten with care. The mansion, which once enforced its brightness like a law, learned a softer light, one made of restraint and intention, and 2 people agreeing to take one step, and only one, across a line. Winter settled deeper over Seattle, wrapping the city in damp gray. Inside the Thompson mansion, warmth began to return, though it was fragile, like the first fire built after a storm. The children laughed more freely, slept more steadily, and clung less desperately to Marcus's sleeves when he left the room. But grief never disappeared, it only changed shape. One evening, after the children had gone to bed, Maya stepped out into the small balcony off the staff quarters. She carried a worn cardigan around her shoulders and stared at the glittering city below. Sophia was already asleep inside, her soft breathing the only anchor Maya trusted when doubt pressed in. She thought about Mrs. Henderson's warning, the sharp truth of it. She wasn't meant to belong in this house. She was a maid with no degree, no family name, no wealth to shield her. And yet, these children looked at her as though she were the one safe place left in the world. That knowledge both lifted her and terrified her. Behind her, the balcony door slid open. Marcus stood there, a mug of tea in his hand, steam curling upward into the night. "You're awake late," he said softly. "So are you." Maya leaned on the railing, eyes still on the skyline. "Business?" "Not tonight," he admitted. "Just thinking." He joined her at the railing, the city spread beneath them like a restless constellation. "When Sarah was alive, I thought I knew what being a father meant. Provide, protect, build something stable. But I never thought about what happens when stability shatters overnight." Maya didn't speak right away. She let him fill the silence with the weight of what he hadn't said for months. "She made this house alive," Marcus continued, his voice raw. "When she died, I thought keeping the lights on would be enough. But light isn't the same as warmth." He paused, glancing sideways. "You've given them that again. And me." Maya's chest tightened. "I haven't given you anything permanent. I'm just trying to make it easier for them to breathe." "That's not just," Marcus said firmly. "That's everything." The words lodged in her, heavy and impossible to dismiss. She turned to face him, the distance between them small in the cool night air. "Marcus. I can't be Sarah. I won't pretend I could ever replace her." "I don't want you to," he said, his voice low and certain. "I want you to be you." The honesty in his tone cracked something inside her. For a heartbeat, she wanted to believe him, wanted to believe that love could cross the invisible lines of wealth and class and loss. But the echo of Mrs. Henderson's warning still lived in her head. "I'm scared," Maya admitted, the words falling like a confession. "So am I." His gaze didn't waver. "But fear isn't always a reason to stop. Sometimes it's the proof that what we're building matters." Before Maya could answer, a faint cry floated from upstairs, Emma's voice, thin and plaintive. Without hesitation, Maya turned, already moving toward the door. Marcus followed. In the nursery, Emma squirmed restlessly in her crib, cheeks flushed. Maya scooped her up, humming the lullaby instinctively. But Emma's cries didn't quiet immediately. Lucas stirred in his bed, mumbling before settling again. The twins peeked over their blankets, sleepy but worried. "It's all right," Maya whispered, pacing slowly across the room. "She's just dreaming." Marcus watched her, struck again by how naturally she carried his children, not as a task but as though they were part of her. Emma slowly calmed, her breathing deepening against Maya's shoulder. "See?" Maya whispered to the twins. "Nothing to fear." Oliver nodded solemnly and closed his eyes. Sophia yawned and pulled the blanket up to her chin. Within minutes, the room was still again. Maya laid Emma gently back in her crib, brushing a hand over the baby's dark hair. For a moment she lingered, her expression so tender that Marcus felt his chest ache. When they left the nursery, Marcus stopped her in the hallway. His voice was hushed, but steady. "You say you're afraid, and I understand. But when I see you with them, I don't feel fear. I feel home." Maya's breath caught. She looked at him, then away, torn between the weight of her doubts and the warmth of his words. "I should sleep," she whispered. He nodded, though disappointment flickered across his face. "Good night, Maya." "Good night, Marcus." She walked back toward the staff quarters, her footsteps soft on the marble floor. Marcus stood alone in the hallway a moment longer, listening to the silence of a house that, for the first time since Sarah's death, felt almost at peace. But both of them knew silence could break at any moment. And the lines they were drawing around themselves would not hold forever. News arrived the way winter news always does, in a tidy email that changed the temperature of the house. Sarah's parents were coming in 3 weeks, just before Emma's first birthday. They wanted to see the children, to bring gifts and stories, to feel the pulse of their daughter's family. The message was short, careful, respectful. It still made Marcus sit down. He found Maya in the playroom, coaching Lucas through the architectural miracle of stacking 3 blocks. "Slow hands," she said. "Let gravity help." "Sarah's parents are visiting," Marcus said. Maya's eyes flicked up. "Soon?" 3 weeks. He exhaled. "They haven't been in the house since the funeral." Maya nodded slowly. She had never met them, but she knew their names, their habits, the way grief had sharpened them. The children sometimes called them Nana and Pop from the comfort of picture frames. Their phone calls had been loving but remote, stray light from another city. "What do you need?" she asked. He hesitated. "A plan that is honest and kind." "Both are non-negotiable," Maya said, and pulled a notebook from the bookshelf. She had started carrying it everywhere, pages filled with sketches of routines, groceries, ideas the children tossed into the air like paper planes. She wrote 3 columns: children, home, us. "We start with them," she said, tapping the first word. "Preparing, not scaring. They need certainty about small things, and options for big feelings." They worked out a rhythm for the visit: arrival in the late morning when the children were most resilient, a short tour of the memory book, hot cocoa with marshmallows rationed by turn, exit if anyone grew overwhelmed. "Signals," Maya added. "Every child gets one word that means pause. If they say it, all conversation stops and we reset." "What word will you choose?" Marcus asked. Maya considered. "Mercy," she said. "It's honest." Mrs. Henderson drifted into the doorway and stayed, invisible as a picture frame. When the word "us" appeared in Maya's looping script, she straightened. "Will you tell them?" she asked, the politeness of her tone stretched thin over the question. "Yes," Marcus replied, before Maya could. "I don't want them surprised in our kitchen." Mrs. Henderson's mouth went small, then softened. "Then let me help you do it well," she said. "Truth is heavy. It needs handles." They told the children first, on a late Saturday morning when pancakes had proven the world still rewarded effort. The beds were still pushed together from a Friday night fort, everyone tumbled onto the carpet like laundry. "We have news," Marcus said, kneeling so his eyes were level with Oliver's. "Nana and Pop are visiting for Emma's birthday." "Will they bring the train?" Daniel asked immediately, remembering a gift that whistled too loudly. "They'll bring themselves," Sophia said primly, an opinion about trains clear in her tone. "There's something else," Maya added. "A truth we want you to hear from us." Her voice didn't tremble, but it did slow. "Your dad and I care for each other." Not instead of loving your mom, never instead. Because she taught all of us what love looks like. Silence rearranged itself into listening. Oliver blinked. Like, together? Yes, Marcus said simply. Care that is more than friendship. Care we are choosing carefully, with you in the very middle of every choice. Sophia studied their faces, the way she studied picture books for hidden mice. Does this change pancakes? The room smiled. No, Marcus said. Pancakes are a holy ritual. Does it change goodnight kisses? Isabella asked, squeezed between the twins like a bookmark. It changes nothing good, Maya said, and we will protect you from anything confusing. Oliver looked at the ceiling as if constellations might offer policy guidance. Will Nana and Pop like it? They may need time, Marcus answered, honest. But they love you. Loving you means loving the people who love you. Okay, Oliver said, and it sounded like a blessing meant for adults who sometimes forgot how to ask. They practiced the pause word together. Sophia chose puddle. Daniel chose ceiling fan, which everyone agreed was overlong, then compromised to fan. Isabella selected horses. Lucas adopted more, a word he already owned. Oliver tried now, and smiled when it felt right. Emma clapped at everyone else's word and ate a graham cracker in triumph. The house began to prepare in ways you could list and ways you couldn't. Floors were polished, yes, and a guest room made up in the blue Sarah's mother liked. But the invisible work was the real work, rehearsing answers that told the truth without performing pain, balancing memory and laughter so neither felt like a betrayal. Maya role-played with Oliver, she was Nana with too many questions, he was Oliver with exactly enough answers. He got very good at saying, that's all for now, and she got very good at nodding. In the kitchen, Mrs. Henderson taught Maya a sauce Sarah's mother loved, a recipe that had outlived 3 cookbooks and 2 marriages. She stirred, remembering. Sarah burned this twice, she said suddenly, and laughed. We ordered pizza and scraped the pot for an hour. She sounds unstoppable, Maya said softly. She was, Mrs. Henderson replied, then set the whisk down like a period at the end of a sentence. You don't have to compete with a memory. No one wins that game. I'm not trying to, Maya said. I'm trying to make room. Good, Mrs. Henderson said. Rooms you make yourself are kinder. The staff found their own balance on the seesaw of change. The driver polished the SUV as if it could absorb diplomacy. The gardener, a man of quiet, tucked winter pansies into soil like little flags that said we keep living. In the evenings, when the house finally sighed, Marcus and Maya met at the table with calendars and crayons. They planned the smallest things with reverence, a 10-minute break between cocoa and presents, 2 chairs by the window for stories, 1 walk outside if the air held. Will you stand with me when I tell them? Marcus asked. Yes, Maya said. But I won't apologize for loving your children. If they ask for credentials, that's the only one I'll present. He smiled at that, not because it was a joke, but because it was a vow. On a Tuesday, he drafted an email to Sarah's parents, clear, gentle, unhidden. He showed it to Maya. She read it twice, then touched the line that mattered most, this home will always honor Sarah. We are learning how to do that while letting our lives be alive. She nodded. He pressed send and felt the world tilt and then settle. The reply came the next day. Brief. Measured. We will talk when we arrive. We are glad the children are sleeping. It wasn't a blessing. It wasn't a storm. It was weather, something to dress for. That night, rain braided itself against the glass. The children slept in the new geography of pushed-together beds. Maya sat in the chair by the door, the habit so ingrained it felt like punctuation. Marcus stood in the threshold and listened to the sound the house made when everyone under its roof was breathing in time. We're doing a hard thing, he said quietly. We are, Maya agreed. But we're not doing it alone. He looked at her, and the look wasn't a rescue or a plea. It was gratitude shaped like a promise. Thank you, he said. For making this house brave. I didn't, she answered. They did. We just named what they were already teaching. In the staff hall, Mrs. Henderson paused, listening to the rain into the calm that lived between two lanterns, a father who had chosen honesty and a woman who had chosen to stay. She felt the rules in her bones shift again, not breaking, but bending where the living needed room. Seattle glowed beyond the windows, other people's lives practicing their own courage. Inside the mansion, lists were taped to the fridge, tiny coats hung by the door, and a plan waited like a hand held out. Weather was coming. The house would not pretend otherwise. It had lights enough. It had, at last, warmth. The day of arrival dawned cold and bright, Seattle's winter sun throwing sharp light on every polished surface in the mansion. Mrs. Henderson had marshaled the staff like a general, flowers in the foyer, fire lit in the sitting room, guest wing prepared with Sarah's mother's favorite linens. Yet despite the order, tension ran like an underground current. The children felt it too. Oliver kept checking the window, his shoulders tight. Sophia clutched a stuffed rabbit with both hands. Daniel asked 3 times if the visit would hurt. Isabella brushed the manes of her toy horses until they gleamed. Lucas carried a blanket from room to room, sniffing it as if anchoring himself. Emma, sensing the collective pulse, grew fretful. Maya moved among them like quiet weather, smoothing fears without pretending they didn't exist. She reminded each of their pause words. She rehearsed small scripts. Yes, we miss Mama. Yes, we love pancakes. No, we don't like when people fight. The children repeated them like spells. By late morning, the sound of tires crunching on gravel set every heart racing. The SUV stopped. Doors opened. Sarah's parents emerged, her mother in a dark wool coat, her father leaning heavily on a cane but carrying his dignity like armor. The children froze. Then Sophia whispered, "Puddle," her signal word, though nothing had yet gone wrong. Maya knelt, eye level with them all. "It's okay," she said. "We start slow." Marcus descended the stairs, his composure precise. He embraced his mother-in-law first, then shook hands with his father-in-law. They exchanged the careful words of people measuring grief against time. Then Sarah's mother looked past him, toward the children lined up by Maya's side. "My darlings," she said, voice breaking. She opened her arms. The twins hesitated only a moment before running to her. Daniel followed, then Isabella. Lucas clung to Maya's leg, but when Sarah's father crouched despite his cane, Lucas allowed himself to be lifted. Emma went last, tucked carefully into her grandmother's arms, her small fist curling into the woman's collar as if memory could pass through fabric. For a few minutes, the house filled with the sound of family rediscovered, kisses, whispered endearments, tears that tasted both bitter and sweet. Marcus stood apart, his eyes wet. Maya remained behind the line, her hand resting gently on Sophia's shoulder. It was Sarah's father who noticed first. "And who is this?" he asked, nodding toward Maya. Marcus stepped forward. "This is Maya Rodriguez," he said evenly. "She's been caring for the children these past months. More than caring, she's helped them heal." Sarah's mother's gaze swept over Maya, taking in the plain sweater, the watchful eyes, the daughter beside her. It wasn't hostile, but it wasn't warm either. "You must have your hands full," she said. "I do," Maya replied softly. "But full hands are better than empty ones." The answer seemed to settle into the air. Marcus caught her eye and gave the smallest nod. They moved into the sitting room. Cocoa was poured. Stories of Sarah's childhood surfaced, carefully chosen, polished with time. The children offered their memory book. Sarah's parents turned pages slowly, their fingers tracing crayon drawings and shaky letters. There were tears, but also smiles, especially at Daniel's lopsided picture of pancakes. The tension returned only when Oliver, blunt as ever, asked, "Do you know Daddy and Miss Maya care about each other?" Silence froze the room. Marcus inhaled. Maya's pulse raced. Sarah's mother closed the book gently. Her eyes moved from Oliver to Marcus, then to Maya. "Is that true?" "Yes," Marcus said. His voice did not waver. I love her. She loves them. And she honors Sarah by keeping our family whole. The statement hung like a bell's final note. Sarah's father's cane tapped once against the floor. His expression was unreadable. Finally, Sarah's mother exhaled, long and slow. She reached for Emma, who had begun to fuss, and rocked her gently. The children are smiling, she said, almost to herself. That hasn't happened in months. We cannot argue with what is plain before us. She looked at Maya again, not yet acceptance, but something closer to understanding. If you give them joy, then we will give you patience. The room softened. The children, who had held their breath, relaxed all at once. Sophia whispered, "Puddle," again, but this time she smiled. For the first time, the mansion held 3 generations at once, not perfect, not resolved, but willing to stay in the same room. And sometimes, that was the beginning of peace. Emma's birthday morning arrived with a sky the color of milk. The house woke gentle, no sirens. Of panic, no brutal hush, just soft feet on carpet and the unwrapping sound of a new day. Maya set a small crown on Emma's head, the baby blinked, patted it, and grinned as if she'd invented queens. The twins taped up a paper banner lettered in an earnest wobble, 1 whole year. Daniel arranged chairs in a circle so no one is alone. Isabella lined toy horses along the fireplace as official guests. Lucas hauled balloons, losing 3 to the ceiling and declaring them clouds we own. Marcus moved through the kitchen with sleeves rolled and a calm that hadn't lived in this house for months. He flipped pancakes the way Sarah had, aiming for hearts and landing somewhere between comet and kidney bean. The children cheered anyway. The point wasn't accuracy, it was faith. Maya dusted sugar over everything like light. Sarah's parents arrived with a tin of old family cookies and an envelope of photographs. There was still caution in the doorway, but it no longer had knives. Sophia offered cocoa as if it were a treaty. Oliver stood taller than usual, the ambassador of "We're okay." They sang before lunch to avoid Nap's sabotage. The cake was small, white, and slightly lopsided. The twins had insisted on that last part because perfect cakes are boring. Maya steadied Emma's high chair while Marcus held the lighter. Flame bloomed. 6 children leaned in, 2 grandparents did, too, pulled by the same gravity. "Make a wish for her," Maya whispered. Marcus did not wish for money or miracles, he wished for ordinary days that stayed. He and Maya blew together, a single breath. The candle went dark, and the room brightened. Emma launched both hands into frosting like a scientist greeting a new element. Lucas cackled. Isabella awarded the cake Best Horse Meadow, which no one understood but everyone celebrated. Oliver passed around tiny plates with the solemnity of communion. Sophia tucked a photograph into the memory book, Emma's fist, sugar bright, midair. Gifts waited until the cake settled. Sarah's mother sat with the twins on the rug, unfolding pictures, Sarah at 8 with gap-toothed pride, Sarah in a college sweater Marcus hadn't seen in years, Sarah holding newborn Oliver and Sophia, hair a mess, smile unbreakable. The children leaned close, questions small and brave. Was she loud? Daniel asked. She was joyfully loud, his grandmother answered, and laughed, and this time her laugh wasn't followed by a wince. In the afternoon Maya took them all to the little garden that had insisted on living through winter. Pansies lifted their stubborn faces. The soil smelled like courage. Each child pressed a seed into the earth and said one sentence to the air, "Thank you, miss you, watch us, look," whatever felt true. Emma patted mud and made a sound that was not a word but did the job. Sarah's father stood with his cane and watched the small ceremony. When it ended, he turned to Maya. "You've made a practice of love here," he said, searching for the right phrase. "It's hard to argue with results that sleep through the night." Maya smiled, surprised by the joke, softened by the mercy inside it. "We're all learning," she said. Inside, gift paper rustled. Outside, the sky released a scatter of sun-like coins. Marcus took Maya's hand without hiding the gesture. They didn't kiss. They didn't need to. The look between them said, We will keep this gentle and brave. Evening slipped over the house like a shawl. Baths, pajamas, the unglamorous negotiations, one more page, one more sip, no, you cannot wear the crown to bed. The beds were pushed together again, a geography that had become a promise. Maya hummed. The lullaby had changed keys over the months, it knew the children now, and they knew it. Tell a mama story? Sophia asked. Marcus chose one where nothing spectacular happened, just a rainy day, a couch fort, pancakes for dinner, a movie paused 10 times to laugh. The children added details as if laying stones on a path. Sarah walked with them there, not as a ghost to be outrun, but as a wind that moved the leaves. When sleep came, it came kindly. Emma flopped sideways with the extravagant trust of babies who have learned the world will catch them. Lucas sighed as tiny thunder. Isabella's hand found Sophia's wrist. Oliver stayed awake 3 beats longer, a guard by habit, then surrendered with relief. Maya kept the first watch in her chair by the door. Marcus sat on the edge of the bed island until the rhythm of 6 breaths told him the house would hold. In the staff hall, Mrs. Henderson stood for a moment, listening. She knew the sounds of a home, the brave quiet, the lived-in pause. She pressed her palm to the wall, thank you, or maybe forgive me, or maybe both. Downstairs, after the last lamp was dimmed, Sarah's parents took their coats slowly. At the door, her mother turned back. We'll come again soon, she said, and the words soon didn't carry a threat. Thank you for letting us be part of today. Thank you for being part of always, Marcus replied. They left. The house exhaled. Seattle glittered beyond the glass like a city practicing patience. In the little garden, a seed shifted against cold and decided to try. Upstairs, a baby breathed frosting sweet, a brother dreamed about trains, a sister slept with horse reins looped across her palm. In the chair, Maya closed her eyes for a minute, not from exhaustion, but peace. Love had not replaced loss. It had grown around it, like ivy making an old wall beautiful without erasing the stone. Tomorrow would ask for the ordinary heroics again, shoes, schedules, tears, jokes, but tonight the mansion was not a fortress. It was a lighthouse, steady and warm, teaching everyone inside the simplest miracle. You are safe. We will be here in the morning.